Hi, welcome to another tutorial video for the Digital Photography and Design class. This is going to be video number 5, which is going to work our way down the toolbar and learn some more about some of the tools that are offered in the toolbar, and if we have time, some things about filters and things as well. Okay, so here we are. I've got an image open in Photoshop. We're going to do some editing to it and use some of the tools and see how they work. At this point, we have learned that in order to work on this file, we need to change our background layer to layer 0 or some other named layer and have it highlighted or targeted, so that if it's like this and it is not highlighted and I try to do something, it will say I can't do that. So I have to select my layer and make it my target layer so that I can then work in that layer. We've worked on some of the selection tools, how to make selections and move them around, so we're going to continue down this toolbar a little bit and see what some of these other tools are and how we might be able to use them. Some of them are important to us, others are going to be possibly a little more complicated than we need, and also possibly not necessarily work for what we want to work with. But anyway, we're moving down. This is our quick selection tool. We've learned how to make selections with that and to move them around and use the edit transform to be able to change things in an individual layer. This is our crop tool. We've used that in our other straight photography cropping lessons, and that's this tool here. And underneath that you see something called an eyedropper tool. There are all kinds of settings under here, but one of the things that the eyedropper tool is really useful for is, without looking at all these other more complicated tools, is simply just selecting a color. So for instance, if I click right here, I see that I get a little window or a circle, and what the eyedropper is doing is selecting the particular color. So over here in my toolbar at the very bottom, these two boxes at the bottom are called your foreground and background color. I can toggle between them and go from a white to a brown color. But notice as I come over here with my eyedropper tool and I click, that this foreground color changes. So it's a way of eyedropping or selecting a particular color that you may want to paint with. And if I wanted to paint with this nail color, I could select it and I know that that's my foreground color. Now I can always click on that foreground color and choose other colors and make them my foreground color, but sometimes you want to paint with exactly the same color or match it in type or in some other way, and you need to know exactly what the mix is for the color. This lets you do that. So that's one of the best functions of the eyedropper tool. And we're going to move down here to the paintbrush tool. We're going to skip this Band-Aid tool for now, or the spot healing brush for now. And we're going to move down to the paintbrush tool, because within the paintbrush tool, you'll see there's a bunch of different things here, but we're going to just stick with the paintbrush tool, the top one for now, because we're going to paint. We're going to paint some of these fingernails and maybe try and color in some of this stuff with the same red color. As I choose the paintbrush tool, I'm going to go up to my top bar and I'm going to look and see what my options are. I see that my second window over gives me some of the most options, which include all kinds of paintbrushes and things like that. Everything from a paintbrush that's going to simulate a maple leaf to a paintbrush that is going to be kind of a smooth blend. Okay, so right now for this particular painting, as I change the size too, I can move it over here and see what this is going to look like. I have that brush size selected. I think is going to be the best for what we're going to try and do. I'm going to zoom in on what I want to paint, and right now I'm going to just try to take some of the highlight off of this nail. So I'm moving into my work area, have this set up, go back to my paintbrush have that on there. Now that looks a lot bigger than it did before, so maybe my paintbrush needs to be a little bit smaller. Maybe make it a little bit smaller like that. That might be a little bit better as far as the size. Opacity is how dark or light this is. I'm going to lower the opacity so it's not really dark. It's going to be a little bit see-through because I don't want it to look really fake. And I'm going to also change the flow, which means how long am I going to have to hold down my cursor or my mouse before the paint starts coming out. Now before I start painting, if I started to paint here now, I'd paint like this and I can see that it's painting that color. I'm going to Control Z that. That's because this is my foreground color. Okay? And so we're going to link this eyedropper up here and we're going to select the red color. So now it's going to paint in, whoops, I got to jump to my brush tool, paint with a red color. No, it should be. Oh, it switched to pink. I'm going to change it again, cancel that. Go back to my eyedropper tool, select my red again, and there we go. Now I've got red. Back to my brush, and now it's painting it red. Okay. Now before I paint on here, a suggestion that I have is similar to when I said to make new layers when you copy things, is to make a new layer in your menu, your layer menu, and say, okay, now what I can do is paint in layer 1 without destroying the integrity of layer 0. So I've got layer 1 selected, I've got it on top, I've got my paintbrush all set up, so now I'm going to start to paint. So I'm adding this red. It's coming out soft like this because I have the settings that I've got set up here. If I, for instance, increased my flow and increased my opacity, it's going to come out stronger. And it looks like I maybe want to find something in between these two. So maybe move that down a little bit. See how that's looking. Okay, that's not looking too bad. And the edge of this brush is soft because I have this brush selected. If I choose a different brush, it's going to give me a different effect. And you can experiment with those as you would like. I don't want this to look too dark, so I'm going to back it off a little bit. It's coming out a little faster than I'd like, so I'm going to lower this a little bit and do some painting here. So as I do this, the pixels themselves are being transformed. Remember, this whole thing is also happening in a layer that is not on the fingered layer. It's a layer that's an independent layer by itself, so that I may have to zoom in real close on that to really make that look nice, but for our demonstration purposes, I think this might work out okay. Alright, so now that's what I've painted. As I turn off layer 1, I can see that that is a separate layer from the background. Now what's good about that is that I can resize it. I could change the color of it if I wanted to by going to Image Adjustments and say change the color. That red wasn't the right color that I wanted it to be. It's only going to happen in that layer because that layer is the one that I've got selected. I can also change the opacity of that layer and make it a stronger or a lighter coverage over what I've done. So that's kind of cool like that. If I didn't want it to be quite so dark, I may leave it like that to keep some of the texture of the finger. I think that's pretty good like that. So now I'm going to do a Control minus and zoom out and see how that looks in the context of the whole picture. Obviously it looks a little funny because the highlight is gone, but I've done a good job of painting that, I think, to where I can see what the picture looks like and see how I can, one of the ways that I can use the paintbrush tool. Okay, now we're going to do something here that's going to do some cloning. Okay, so the next tool down is my paintbrush, or from my paintbrush, is called your clone stamp tool. And as I click on the clone stamp tool, this tool, as with many of the other tools, including your eraser tool, are linked to your paintbrush. So whatever paintbrush I have selected here is going to be the paintbrush type and size that I'm going to be able to work with. So as I move this over, I see that that's the size of the paintbrush. I want a soft paintbrush again for this particular thing. I can make the size smaller and make it that size. But I'm going to click on that size and kind of move this over a little bit just to say, okay, that's about the size that I want for my paintbrush. I'm not even in the paintbrush tool. I'm actually in the clone stamp tool. And this tool is good for cloning or copying things. Here, I'll walk you through it, and then I'll have to do it a couple times because sometimes it can get confusing. What we're going to do is add another finger in here. So I'm going to put my cursor where I want it to be. And before I do this, I'm going to make a new layer because we want to copy this into a new layer. Layer 2 is the one we want. I'm going to just turn off layer 1 since we didn't have that on the original picture, just so that we're going to work with what we've got. Actually, maybe I'll just throw layer 1 away. I'm just going to drag that in the trash so it doesn't get confusing. Start with layer 0, which is my layer that I want. Now this tool only works with a key command, so I have to hold down the Alt key, and you'll see it goes to a crosshair. I'm going to click. Okay. Now I'm going to jump to layer 2 and start painting. Now the reason I jump to layer 2 is I don't want to paint right on top of this old layer 0, and I'm going to start to paint. Okay, so as I paint, notice on the left there's a finger, or there's a little X, and that X or plus sign gets copied over to wherever my paintbrush is happening. Okay, so I'm cloning those pixels from layer 0 to layer 2 based on the selection that I made. Okay? Alright, now as before, that's on its own layer. It can be taken out, moved around. Okay? I'm going to go through this process again. Drag layer 2 to the back, the garbage. Go up here, make a new layer. Say OK. Select layer 0, select my clone tool. Let's do it to this one now. Put it over the top of the area that you'd like to clone. Hit the Alt key and then click, let go of everything, and just move to the area where you think you want to start painting. It's going to remember where we made that. And before I do that, jump to layer 1, click and drag, and paint. And now I'm painting that area, or that finger. Okay? And as I move, it remembers everything. It clicks on everything and will copy all of it. Okay? So that's the clone tool. Now, what's the clone tool used for? It can be used for something like really dramatic like this, but it can also be used for simple things, like if you imagine, oh, I've got a background where there's a sky and there's something in the sky that I want to take out, like the cloud, or I want to copy a cloud, or for instance here, there's a little blemish. Say it was a blemish on her finger. It looks like a little freckle. Let's say that was a freckle on someone's face, or a mark in the grass that was a grassy area that you want to get rid of. This is going to be a tool where I can try and clone over that by copying some of this actual pixel material. Material, I guess, is a strong word, but it kind of is. As I move this, I'm going to make that really small. A really small brush size. That's too big. And bring it down like that. Go to layer 0. Put this over my area where I think I want to clone. Hold down the Alt key, click, jump to layer 1, and oops. I'm going to have to go through this again. Layer 0, Alt key, click, jump to layer 1. Oh, the layer is hidden. Okay, so I've just didn't realize that my layer was hidden, which means that layer has to be seen like this. So I'll try this again and it should work. Alt key click, let go of everything, go back to my layer that I want to paint in, and as I am painting, I'm not dragging, but I'm just kind of clicking, and I've started to get rid of that. Okay, I'll try it again. I would like to maybe get rid of that a little bit more. I'll do an Alt click, go to layer 1, and voila. Okay, watch this. We're going to zoom out, and now miraculously this hand does not have a freckle on it anymore. Okay, So we're going to stop this tutorial. Hope we'll continue with some other tools in the next video. Thanks for watching.